Welcome back to our journey through the fascinating world of that time I got reincarnated as a Slime's light novel. Let's continue from the last part, where we left.
Ranga, the loyal Tempest wolf, faced a fierce battle against 6 powerful ogres in the forest of Jura. His determination to protect his friends and the realization that his master, Rimuru, was not there spurred him into action. However, the ogres displayed advanced tactics, using illusory magic to confuse and hinder Ranga's keen senses. Despite his efforts, the ogres' coordinated attacks left many hobgoblins and tempest wolves incapacitated. Ranga, recognizing the challenging situation, felt a mix of resentment and a longing for Rimuru's presence. As he howled with conviction, he grappled with the difficult decision ahead, showcasing both loyalty and the acknowledgement of the formidable foes he faced. Meanwhile, on the village, peace had settled after the chaos caused by the Ifrit attack. Rigurd, the new Goblin King, proved to be a natural leader, efficiently coordinating the rebuilding efforts alongside other villagers while Rimuru looked after Shizu. Each member of the community had specific responsibilities. Rigurd oversaw security and food supply, Gar managed clothing production, Dold crafted tools, Mildo handled home construction, Kaijin supervised production, and Lilina managed inventory. The 3 goblin lords, Rugurd, Rigurd, and Rogurd, supported Rigurd in governance and legislation. Despite their monstrous nature, they worked together smoothly under Rimuru's guidance. With the village on the path to recovery, Rimuru focused on obtaining proper clothing for his new human form. He visited Garm, the dwarf in charge of the clothing factory, to request an outfit. Haruna, a goblina, took measurements and complimented Rimuru on his cuteness, sparking curiosity about Monster's aesthetic standards. With clothing on the way, Rimuru decided to explore his new abilities further, eager to see what else he could accomplish. If he wanted to experiment with his new skills without interruption, Rimuru needed a quiet place. He asked Rigurd to ensure no one followed him and headed to the sealed cave, where he first met Veldora. The cave provided privacy and safety from any kind of distractions. Rimuru then started to test his skills, starting with Flame Transform, but found it didn't work in slime form due to its reliance on spiritual energy. He then discovered that he needed to be in a magical form to use it effectively. After he started to explore ranged barrier and found it useful for defense against attacks like poison mist, experimenting with Flame Transform inside the barrier revealed its devastating power. Despite the dangerous nature of his abilities, Rimuru was relieved to have found effective means of defense and offense. Satisfied with the results, he returned to the village to replenish his magicule stores and rest, feeling content with his progress. The next day, Rimuru visited Garm's cabin for a fitting session, eager to try out the outfit they were making for him. Haruna provided some mass-manufactured armor and clothing for him to try on, and despite feeling like he was playing dress-up, Rimuru found an outfit that fit well and felt comfy. Excited about his custom outfit being crafted from the skin of a boss Darulf, he left the workshop anticipating its completion. As he walked through the village in his child form, he noticed the warm reception from the villagers. When he encountered Rigurd, who easily recognized him despite the different form, Rimuru decided to have a feast with everyone to celebrate his new appearance. The prospect of tasting food with his new human body added to his excitement. Later, as he ventured towards the cave for more experimental sessions, he asked Rigurd to arrange a feast, expressing his willingness to join the villagers for a meal. Rimuru also learned about the migration of magical beasts in the forest and assigned Ranga to join Rigurd's team for added security, showcasing his concern for the well-being of the village. Then he went cave for practice magic. Today, Rimuru wanted to practice using Control Flame, an extra skill that allows him to manipulate fire. Although it wasn't as powerful as he hoped, Rimuru decided to experiment by combining various skills. Through a series of tests, he discovered that the deviant skill left by Shizu allowed him to create a new skill called Dark Flame, enabling him to control fire in different ways. He also acquired Control Particles, which gave him incredible control over the air molecules. By combining skills, Rimuru created Dark Thunder, a skill for controlling lightning without transforming into another creature. Excited about these newfound abilities, Rimuru realized the potential of deviant in synthesizing and separating skills. Despite the complexity, he felt grateful for the powerful combination of Predator and Deviant, enhancing his skills. Eager to test his upgraded Cancel Temperature, Rimuru successfully created a multi-layer barrier, providing strong defense against various attacks. Satisfied with the day's progress, Rimuru looked forward to using his enhanced skills. Walking down the familiar cave path, Rimuru pondered ways to hide the magical aura he unintentionally emitted. Despite absorbing energy from defeating Ifrit, the aura persisted. While encountering a giant centipede, Rimuru noticed that the cave's residents now acknowledged him, likely due to his aura. The multi-layer barrier helped, but the aura lingered. Suddenly, he remembered the Mask of Magic Resistance, a memento from Shizu. Putting it on, the magical aura vanished, providing a solution to his problem. Excited about the grilled meat waiting outside, his joy turned to concern when he sensed a nearby battle. Putting aside his meal, Rimuru investigated and discovered a fierce battle unfolding. As approaching the noise of battle, Rimuru found Gada facing off against an experienced ogre swordsman. Despite Gada's efforts, the ogre's skill surpassed his own, leaving Gada wounded but still standing. After the ogre noticed Rimuru, he ceased the fight, confident in his victory. Rimuru provided Gada with a healing potion, relieved to see him relatively unharmed. Meanwhile, Ranga informed Rimuru of a dire situation where hobgoblins and wolves lay unconscious due to a magic spell cast by the ogres. Rimuru assessed the situation, noticing the ogres' intelligence, advanced weaponry and magical abilities, realizing the danger they posed. The ogres accused Rimuru of being evil, refusing to listen to his explanations, and a confrontation ensued. Rimuru assigned Ranga to engage the pink-haired ogress while he faced the remaining ogres, confident in his newfound strength derived from absorbing Ifrit. Despite the odds, Rimuru remained determined to protect his allies and resolve the conflict peacefully if possible. Rigurd mentioned that the ogres could be as strong as Aminus's, but Rimuru doubted they surpassed Ifrit's power. Despite the temptation to defeat them, Rimuru preferred dialogue over violence. He approached the dark-haired ogre and paralyzed him with a skill he had absorbed from cave centipedes. Through a new skill called Universal Shapeshift, Rimuru discovered he could control various monster abilities simultaneously. Despite his efforts, the ogres continued their assault, showcasing teamwork and advanced combat skills. Rimuru lost his arm to the Elder Ogre's swift strike but quickly regenerated it with a new skill, Ultra Speed Regeneration. Unveiling his full magical aura, Rimuru intimidated the ogres, but the red-haired ogre remained defiant. Rimuru hoped to end the conflict peacefully but prepared for a decisive showdown if necessary. Then he showcased his Dark Flame and Dark Thunder skills to intimidate the ogres. The pink-haired ogress, thinking Rimuru's powers surpassed her brother's, pleaded for calm. The red-haired and white-haired ogres, driven by a sense of pride, were willing to sacrifice themselves. The ogre princess intervened, urging her brother to reconsider. Steam billowing from the vaporized boulder supported her argument that Rimuru might not be part of the attacking horde. The red-haired ogre, realizing his mistake, apologized and the conflict took a peaceful turn. Rimuru suggested returning to the village, inviting the ogres to join and share a meal. The hobgoblins woke up, and with a princess's help, they shook off the spell. The magic from earlier didn't bother them at all. The purple-haired one got free from the sticky threads, and a bit of potion helped the blue-haired one wake up. Figuring out what to do with the black-haired one was tricky, but using Deviant did the trick. No one was seriously hurt, so they all headed back to the village. There, Rigurd, the ultimate organizer, had prepared a fantastic meal. Even though the main character didn't feel hungry, that first bite was amazing. The hobgoblins' upgraded palates experimented with new recipes, making the cow deer meat even more delicious. Lilina and Haruna, in charge of food, explained how they used fruit juice for flavor. The protagonist shared some collected salt, surprising the goblins. The pink-haired one, knowledgeable about herbs, helped with ingredients, and everyone enjoyed a feast. The pink-haired friend quickly became part of the village, sharing her knowledge. The friends decided to talk with the new friends, the ogres, the next day in a log house at the village center. The youngest dwarf, Mildo, did a great job building it based on a sketch. Thanks to their knowledge and the dwarves' tools, creating it was easy. They all gathered in the reception room, including Rigurd, the goblin lords, and Kaijin the dwarf as a mediator. They wanted everyone to hear the ogre's important information, as it might affect their village. Haruna served tea, and after some awkwardness, the talk began. The ogres shared that they were fleeing a threat and needed to regroup. This worried them as defeating ogres meant a powerful force was at play. The group decided to hear more about it. So, the ogres shared their story. They were in a war and lost. While our friends were dealing with Ifrit, the ogres faced a surprise attack by orcs, which was odd because orcs are weaker creatures. Their homeland was larger than ours, a gathering of clans forming a battle fort housing 300 ogres. These ogres lived as mercenaries, training and sometimes assisting other races in conflicts. Sadly, their home was defeated by orcs in black armor, led by a powerful magic-born figure. The survivors, including the shamaness and her brother, faced a brutal massacre. Thousands of orcs in full-plate armor flooded their fort, hinting at human involvement. The group pondered if a demon lord might be behind it, and the threat of orcs overrunning the forest of Jura became evident. The ogres wanted revenge against the orcs who attacked their home, and Rimuru offered them a chance to join his side. The ogres agreed, seeing it as an opportunity to protect themselves in the village. Rimuru promised to fight alongside them until the orc leader was defeated. The decision was made, and the ogres pledged to serve under Rimuru's leadership. After Rimuru successfully convinced the ogres to join him, seeing it as a crucial alliance against the impending orc threat, to solidify their bond, Rimuru decided to give each ogre a name, a process that unexpectedly drained his magic and turned him back into a slime. The ogres were surprised by this revelation, and they too felt weakened by the ceremony. As Rimuru wondered why naming them had such an impact, he had to wait until his magic was recharged to find out. After a night of restless sleep, Rimuru woke up to find the ogres transformed into remarkable beings. Benimaru, Shuna, Hakuro, Shion, Sowai, and Kurobe all displayed stunning changes in appearance and strength, evolving into powerful ogre mages. Rimuru was astonished by their newfound beauty and vigor, but also concerned about the magic depletion caused by naming them. Despite his worries, the ogres pledged their unwavering loyalty to Rimuru, expressing their desire to serve as his devoted retainers. Rimuru accepted their oath, welcoming them into the village while silently hoping they wouldn't betray him. With the village's population growing, Rimuru couldn't help but feel a mix of pride and apprehension about the formidable allies he had gained. Looking at the ogres, Rimuru noticed significant changes in their appearance after their transformation into ogre mages. Despite their smaller size, they carried themselves with dignity, and Rimuru decided to provide them with new clothing and equipment. Garm, the village craftsman, expressed surprise at their high-level status and started working on outfits. Hakuro's traditional attire remained unchanged, and Kuro borrowed clothes from Kaijin. Rimuru learned about the unusual Japanese-style weapons the ogres wielded, passed down from warriors who visited their homeland centuries ago. Impressed, Rimuru appointed Kurobe as the village's dedicated swordsmith, introducing him to Kaijin for collaboration. Kurobe, with a unique skill called Researcher, was enthusiastic about crafting high-quality swords and demonstrated various sub-skills. Rimuru provided Magisteel for sword production, eagerly anticipating the outcome. After getting their measurements taken, Benimaru and Sowai walked out in fur outfits, looking handsome as ever, which made Rimuru a bit envious. Curious about Shuna and Shan's absence, Rimuru learned that they were unhappy with the fur outfits and decided to fix their own clothes. Shuna, especially skilled in sewing, used silk made from Helmoth cocoons, known for its magical properties. With silk being rare and valuable, Rimuru suggested harvesting Helmoth cocoons, and Sowai volunteered to lead the effort. Later, Shuna and Shion emerged in refitted silk clothes, and Rimuru delegated tasks for textile production to Shuna and clothing crafting to Garm. Rimuru also pondered using sticky steel thread for fireproof clothing. Shuna, feeling honored, blushed at being relied on, while Rimuru hoped the dwarf brothers wouldn't make advances toward her, considering her lethal abilities. Rimuru, imagining business suits for the group, showed Shuna, who offered to sew them. With orders placed, they left the workshop, except for Shuna. In the middle of the forest of Jura lies Lake Sisiu, the home of the lizardmen. The lizardmen, who live in caves surrounding the lake, are known for their strength and battle skills. One day, troubling news arrives: the orc forces are advancing on Lake Sisiu. The lizardman chief, though confident in his tribe's abilities, becomes concerned about the sheer number of orcs, reaching 200,000. This unimaginable force raises doubts and fear among the lizardmen. The chief and his advisors discuss the possibility of an orc lord leading this massive army, a legendary creature born once in a few centuries. The chief, feeling the need for backup, decides to call for Gable, adding more complexity to the impending chaos. In the heart of the forest of Jura, the goblin chieftains gathered, uneasy about the changes happening. After facing a direwolf attack, named warriors protected the villages but were deserted by many goblins who sought refuge with a mysterious savior. Now orc knights arrived, demanding food and submission. Feeling trapped, the goblins learned that the same threat was posed to all villages in the area. Amid despair, a lizardman envoy, Gable, offered them a chance for survival by swearing loyalty to him. The goblins, grasping at hope, agreed without realizing the consequences, setting their fates in motion. Gabil, a powerful lizardman, felt frustrated as he followed orders from his chief, who was also his father, to seek cooperation from goblin villages. Gabil, once named by the monster Gelmud, dreamt of leading the lizardman himself. Seeing an opportunity, he planned to use the goblins and challenge his father's leadership. With his confidence growing, he believed he could easily handle the orc threat and become the tribe's leader. As he gathered followers among the goblins, Gabil's ambitions soared, and he saw himself as the true hero in this unfolding story, ready to seize control. After several days, everything was humming along in the growing community. Benimaru and the ogres easily integrated with the goblins, with Benimaru taking charge of military affairs and Xian serving as a secretarial royal guard. Shuna, skilled with a unique skill analysis, efficiently managed silk production, and Soai gathered Helmoth cocoons. Kurob worked on crafting weapons, bringing enthusiasm to his job. As the town expanded into an industrial district, it became clear that Rimuru's plans for a nation were taking shape. The camaraderie among the residents was evident, but a moment of tension arose when Shuna and Shan playfully competed for Rimuru's attention. Just as the thought occurred, a figure suddenly appeared next to Benimaru. It was Soai, who had pretty much jumped right out from Benimaru's shadow using his shadow motion skill. Rimuru knew it involved harnessing shadows to move quickly, but he hadn't tried it himself yet. Soai reported seeing lizardmen far from their usual home, which seemed unusual. Rimuru decided to make Soai his covert agent to gather information for their cause. Soai seemed serene but slightly hurried, indicating his urgency. With the ogres evolving into ogre mages and gaining unique skills, Rimuru assigned roles to each Benimaru as samurai general, Shuna as oracle, Hakuro as instructor, Soai as covert agent, Xian as royal guard, and Kurob as swordsmith. Rimuru felt satisfied with the roles and the unity they brought to their growing community. Gebel found many goblin villages that eagerly followed him, drawn to his strength without needing grand speeches. Disregarding his chief's orders, he gathered 7,000 warriors from various villages, equipped with basic gear. Learning about another settlement led by goblins riding direwolves, Gabil was skeptical but curious. The elders described a slime leading them, which Gabel found ridiculous. Determined to investigate, he saw it as an opportunity to gain control over the direwolves. Seeing his chief as an obstacle, Gabul aimed to become the king of the forest of Jura. His impatience fueled his desire for power, and he imagined the joy his master would express upon his success. Gabel, blinded by pride and ambition, prepared to lead a group towards the mysterious settlement, unaware of the challenges awaiting him. Some days had passed since the ogre mages became part of the town. Shuna, with Soai's help, was making amazing silk thread that impressed everyone. She taught goblinas, led by Lilina, how to sew, creating better clothes for the village. Kurob focused on improving weapons with Kaijin's assistance. Soai, using his replication skill, created clones for reconnaissance and set up a security network. Benimaru and Rigard discussed forming a combat organization for the town's safety. Meanwhile, Hakuro trained Rimuru in swordsmanship, revealing a powerful skill called Haze. As Rimuru practiced, they heard an alarm triggered by Soai's system, indicating the arrival of lizardmen envoys. Rimuru headed to the town's entrance to meet the lizardmen envoy's advance messenger. The messenger rode a hover lizard, which made Rigard nervous. If they were knight-level lizardmen, the village could be in trouble. Rimuru, Rigard, Benimaru, and Hakuro were there to greet them, with Rimuru emphasizing the importance of politeness. However, Xian's absence raised concerns. This has all happened a while ago. When she arrived with tea for Rimuru, he discovered it was undrinkable. Despite everyone's awkward reactions, Gabda, who arrived after the petrol, unwittingly drank it, leading to a humorous yet tense situation. Rimuru decided to assign Benimaru to handle food and drink matters in the future, feeling relieved that no one was seriously harmed, except Gabda's collapsing. The Lizardman envoy finally arrived about an hour after the alarm call. Rimuru transformed into a slime and asked Xian to hold him, feeling safer that way. Xian seemed eager to protect him, likely to make up for the tea disaster earlier. The envoy, Gable, made arrogant demands, claiming they needed his protection from orc attacks. Rimuru felt frustrated but kept his cool until Gable insulted him. Ranga, Rimuru's loyal follower, confronted Gable, intimidating the lizardmen. When Gable challenged Rimuru, Gabda unintentionally volunteered to fight, leading to an unexpected confrontation. Rimuru offered Gabda a weapon from Kurobe as a reward for his bravery, but if he lose, he need to eat Xian's cooking. After convincing Gabda to face Gable in a duel, Rimuru and the others watched as the battle unfolded. Gable, arrogant as ever, underestimated Gabda's strength. However, Gabda surprised everyone with his shadow motion technique, catching Gable off guard and defeating him with a well-placed kick. The victory was celebrated, and even the ogres praised Gabda's skill. Rimuru acknowledged his misjudgment and congratulated Gabda, promising to reward him with a new weapon. As Gable and his lizardmen retreated, defeated and confused, Rimuru signaled the end of their encounter, bringing an end to their attempts at negotiation. Rimuru was relieved when the envoy left, but there was still work to be done. Gathering the key figures in a small hut, he initiated a discussion on future plans. Rigard was tasked with calling everyone, and Soai was brought in using thought communication. 12 important members, including Kaijin, Lilina, Rigard, and others, represented various aspects of town management. Benimaru focused on recruiting for the army, Lilina managed agriculture, and Kaijin handled production. Rimuru acknowledged the current organization's weaknesses but praised Rigard's efforts. Lilina's multitasking skills impressed him as she managed agriculture and resource stocks. Kaijin worked on architecture and production, collaborating with Kurobe. Rimuru looked forward to things settling down, anticipating more creative contributions once the current wave of production concluded. Rimuru gathered everyone in the conference room to discuss the latest information from Soai's reconnaissance mission. Divided into 3 parts, the report covered the state of other goblin villages, activities in the marshlands, and the orc threat. Most goblin villages had aligned with Gable, a lizardman warrior lord, while some goblins fled in panic. Gable had formed a force of 7,000 goblins camped near Rimuru's town, facing a grim fate due to food scarcity. In the marshlands, lizardmen prepared for an orc siege with a well-fed army of 10,000. Soai revealed the orc forces numbered 200,000, causing concern. The lack of maps prompted Rimuru to create a makeshift one, emphasizing its importance. Rimuru contemplated the orcs' motives, questioning their decision to attack other powerful monsters on the way, leaving everyone puzzled about the orcs' true intentions. The group puzzled over the orcs' motives and routes on a makeshift map, wondering why they attacked certain areas. Benimaru, Shuna, and Hakuro discussed the ominous orc threat in Rimuru's conference room. The orcs not only targeted the ogres but also seemed to be headed for the lizardmen's marshlands. As they analyzed the orc movements on a makeshift map, speculation arose about the orcs' motives and their ability to sustain a massive army. Soai suggested the disturbing possibility that the orcs were foraging on the bodies of the dead, raising concerns. The revelation of a potential orc lord, a monster with the ravenous skill, explained the mystery. The orc lord's ability to absorb skills and powers from consumed monsters, turning them into energy, made the orcs more formidable than anticipated. The group realized that the orcs aimed not to destroy but to absorb the powers of the forest's higher-level monsters, creating a tense atmosphere in the room. As the group processed the revelation of the orc lord and discussed potential strategies, they were interrupted by the unexpected arrival of Trainee, a rare and powerful dryad. Trainee expressed her concern about the calamities in the forest caused by the orc invasion and the mysterious support from a high-level magic born. She sought the assistance of Rimuru and the group, explaining the treant's vulnerability to the orc threat. Trainee revealed her knowledge of the Orc Lord's presence and the need for their help to defeat it. The group was taken aback by the request, questioning why they should take on such a formidable foe. Trainee reminded them of their past acts of kindness and hoped they would extend their aid to protect the forest. The room fell silent as the group contemplated the gravity of the situation. Rimuru, feeling a mix of uncertainty and responsibility, decided to trust Trainee and agreed to face the Orc Lord. Xian's enthusiastic support surprised Rimuru, but he accepted the challenge. The group discussed strategies considering the orc invasion and Gable's suspicious actions. So I volunteered to negotiate with the lizardmen for an alliance, while Rimuru planned to contact human allies for support. As they prepared for the upcoming battle, uncertainty and determination filled the air. The orc army, driven by an insatiable hunger, rampaged through the forest, destroying everything in its path. Their relentless chant echoed through the trees as they devoured any living creature they encountered, their yellow eyes blazing with fury. To them, everything was prey to be consumed, their only purpose to fill their empty stomachs. As they marched, they fell upon fallen comrades, tearing them apart without a second thought, fueled by the dark power of ravenous. Their numbers swelled with each fallen ally, their hunger only growing stronger, their bodies transforming with newfound strength. Even in the face of powerful foes like the ogres, they pressed on, driven by an unstoppable appetite and the thirst for power, with their leader, the Orc Lord, at the helm, ready to devour all in their path. The Lizardman chief felt a deep chill as he learned that the Orc Lord, the very threat he feared, was now a harsh reality. The messenger reported the destruction of the powerful ogre stronghold, swallowed by the Orc horde. Despite their numerical advantage, the lizardmen faced the grim truth that the Orc Lord's presence elevated the threat. The chief, torn by a difficult decision, knew hiding in their caverns wouldn't guarantee safety. Suddenly, an unexpected visitor, Soai, a powerful monster, arrived proposing an alliance to face the orc menace. Gable's impulsive supporters opposed the idea, but the chief, recognizing the potential of this alliance, silenced them. The lizardman leader, cautious yet hopeful, agreed to the alliance, paving the way for a meeting with Soai's master in 7 days. A sense of relief washed over the chief as he prepared for a looming clash, uncertain but determined to face the orc threat with newfound allies. Gable woke up, realizing he fell into a trap set by a clever fighter from the village. Angry and embarrassed, he shared the news with his lizardmen, who felt deceived. Gable blamed the sneaky tactics of the direwolves and hobgoblins, expressing his frustration. His loyal men consoled him, boosting his ego, and one suggested that Gable should become the new leader. The idea excited Gable, and he agreed, envisioning a new era for the lizardmen. Encouraged by his enthusiastic followers, Gable declared the start of a new era, feeling confident about leading his people to glory. Little did he know, the stage was set for a farcical turn of events. The chief of the lizardmen received a positive war report, feeling relieved as they successfully defended against the orc onslaught for 4 days. Despite the severe attacks, they cleverly used traps and their knowledge of the caverns to minimize losses. The chief's leadership played a crucial role in maintaining morale and strategic defense. Aware of the impending reinforcements, they focused on preventing casualties, understanding the orcs' strength was linked to their fallen comrades. The chief's careful planning and strict orders ensured the defensive lines held strong, counting down the 3 days until reinforcements arrived. The hope of a counterattack lifted spirits, providing a glimpse of ending the ongoing stalemate. Just as the chief found some relief, news arrived that Gable had returned, introducing a new element to the evolving situation. Gable was really mad when he got back to the chief. He thought the lizardmen were acting like scaredy cats, hiding from the orcs. He was all set to show them the real lizardman pride. The chief was happy to see him and asked if he convinced the goblins to join. Gable proudly said yes, and they were ready to follow orders. But then, the chief surprised him. They got a request for an alliance, and the chief planned to wait for those allies and then attack. Gabble didn't like that at all. He wanted to lead the attack right away and show the pigs who's boss. The chief said no and told him to rest. Gabble was angry. He thought the chief was waiting for him. Later, Gabble decided he had waited enough, and it was time for him to be the chief. He brought goblins and his guards into the chief's place, and with a fancy spear, he took over. His dad, the former chief, was not happy, and Gabble ordered everyone who supported the old chief to be taken away. A guy named Laplace, who worked for someone Gabble liked, helped him with the plan. Now Gabble was in charge, ready to attack the orcs, feeling confident and ignoring his dad's advice. The chief felt really sad and confused. His son Gabble betrayed him and everything fell apart. Soai's warning about watching his back came true. The chief thought he had control, but even the tough lizardmen were following Gabble. Feeling desperate, he told his daughter to warn the alliance forces. She managed to escape, giving him a little hope. But now, stuck in a cell, he worried about the lizardmen's fate. He wished he could keep the women and children safe. He knew Gabble would attack soon, and they had no defense left. The chief felt responsible and hoped he could at least buy a bit more time for his tribes. On that day, the marshes were full of orcs. They were heading towards the cavern entrances, and even more were on their way. Gabble, the leader, had a plan. He wanted to attack the orcs in the marshes before they reached the caverns. He believed in the lizardmen's agility and strength. Gabble had organized his troops, a mix of lizardmen and goblins, to strike and retreat. He thought this would wear down the orcs over time. The lizardmen under his command were doing well, surprising the orcs and making them struggle. Gabble was confident, but he didn't know about the orc lord's strength. His father, the former chief, understood, but now the clash would reveal the difference in their opinions. The orcs were feasting on the bodies of their fallen comrades, gaining their abilities through a terrifying process called the food chain. Gabble, the leader, urged his lizardmen and goblin troops to fight back, confident in their agility and strength. However, the orcs, under the influence of Ravenous, became faster and more coordinated. Gabble attempted a desperate escape, but the orcs quickly encircled them. Realizing the dire situation, Gabble tried to rally his troops, suppressing their panic. As regrets filled him, he acknowledged the consequences of his earlier decisions. Now trapped and surrounded, Gabble struggled to inspire his troops, even as their impending defeat loomed. The chief deeply regretted not explaining the orc threat more vividly to Gabble. Overwhelmed by guilt, he focused on evacuating his people from the large underground chamber, fearing the impending orc attack. The orcs breached the defenses, and the chief led his fighters in a valiant effort to hold them back. However, the orcs, enhanced by a mysterious aura, matched the lizardmen's strength. Realizing their imminent defeat and with reinforcements days away, the chief made a difficult decision to save the women and children. As he tried to guide them to safety, hope shattered when orc knights and a fearsome orc general blocked their escape. Despite facing certain doom, the chief bravely confronted the orc general, determined to protect his people. The chief guard of the lizardmen dashed through the forest, determined to find the envoy Soai. Exhausted but resolute, she pushed forward, haunted by thoughts of betrayal and regret for not stopping her brother Gabble's reckless actions. As she ran, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, unaware of the orc general stalking her every move. When he finally confronted her, she faced him with defiance, knowing the odds were against her but unwilling to surrender her pride and duty to her homeland. Laplace, a mysterious man with a strange mask, gleefully observed the battlefield through magical crystal balls. As he manipulated orc generals to fulfill his clients' desires, he encountered Trainee, a dryad warden of the forest who sought to stop his meddling. Despite Laplace's protests, Trainee invoked powerful magic to subdue him, only for Laplace to escape using his unique skills. Trainee, conflicted and concerned about the Orc Lord's potential for chaos, pondered her role as a guardian of the forest amidst the turmoil of battle, unable to intervene fully due to the risk of empowering the enemy. Despite her frustration, Trainee remained committed to her duty, grappling with the uncertainty of the situation. Gebel fought desperately against the overwhelming orc forces, feeling the battle becoming increasingly one-sided. The orc army showed no signs of fatigue, relentlessly attacking the Goblin Lizardmen alliance. Gebel faced the grim reality that escaping was no longer an option, and the orcs intended to annihilate them without mercy. As fear spread among the ranks, the formation crumbled and chaos ensued. Gebel, recognizing the dire situation, pressed on to find any possible escape route. However, the appearance of a group of orc soldiers in black armor, led by a powerful orc general, signaled a seemingly insurmountable challenge. Despite his fatigue and damaged armor, Gebel accepted the general's invitation to duel, hoping for a warrior's end. As the two clashed, a sudden intervention occurred, disrupting the duel and introducing a new and unexpected force onto the battlefield, creating a shift in the dynamics of the conflict. Gaba reached out to help Gebel, while Rimuru watched the battle from above, feeling anxious as the orcs seemed to have the upper hand. Despite their fearsome appearance, Rimuru and a few ogre mages turned the tide of the battle. After dispatching Soai to the Lizardmen, Rimuru began organizing battle preparations, prioritizing speed and mobility. Addressing the town's monsters, Rimuru emphasized the importance of staying calm and following the plan, reassuring them with his unintentional confidence. Despite feeling embarrassed by his speeches, Rimuru knew they were necessary for morale. He assigned roles for the upcoming battle, explaining the limited numbers and the need for quick action. When questioned by Shuna and Rieger about their roles, Rimuru offered plausible explanations, maintaining unity among the monsters. Despite uncertainties about the alliance with the Lizardmen, Rimuru remained determined to prepare for the worst while hoping for the best, knowing that his people depended on him for leadership in times of crisis. Rimuru gave Kaijin an order for 100 Goblin Rider weapons and armor, focusing on speed for Benimaru, Hakuro, and Shion. While waiting for Soai, Rimuru chose Gapta as the Goblin Rider leader. Gapta nervously agreed, and Rimuru assured him that everything would work out. Rimuru then selected 100 Goblin Riders and handed their names to Kaijin for equipment preparation. Soai returned, apologizing for the delay, and together they went to the production workshop. Shuna, skilled in sewing, greeted them, and she presented specially crafted outfits to Rimuru and the ogre mages. Shuna's creations magically adjusted to the wearer's body and offered various benefits. Rimuru was delighted with the outfits, including a versatile coat made from the original direwolf boss's fur. The clothing had self-repair and resistance to cold and heat. Shuna's thoughtful gift left Rimuru impressed, and he couldn't wait to try out the new shoes she gave him, feeling grateful for the care and craftsmanship. Rimuru tried on the shoes Shuna made, feeling comfortable, and learned that Dold and Garm were too shy to hand them over directly. Shuna had prepared shoes for everyone, reinventing their looks. They left Shuna's workshop happily and headed to Kurob's forge, where he showcased weapons for the ogre mages. Shion received a large warblade and Kurob explained its magical features. Benimaru, Hakuro, and Soai got personalized weapons, and Rimuru received a test run of a magic ore sword. Kurob also crafted a katana for Rimuru, and they discussed Gapta's shortsword. The weapons were finally ready, and Garm informed them about Benimaru's armor, designed by Kurob. The next day, the Goblin Riders, equipped with a week's provisions, prepared to face an orc lord. Rimuru gave them a brief pep talk, and they set off for the marshes with high spirits. 3 days into their journey, Rimuru and the group reached the marshlands ahead of schedule. Rimuru used his stomach stores to provide water, boosting its effects for the wolves. As they rested, Soai volunteered to scout the area. Benimaru asked if they could go all out in the upcoming battle, expressing confidence. Shion admired her sword, exhibiting a mix of ditzy and creepy behavior. Hakuro hoped for a challenging fight. An hour later, Soai communicated about a lizardman in battle against orcs, seeking guidance. Rimuru decided to observe and gather information, instructing Soai to intervene if the lizardman was in danger. The group prepared to move, with Rimuru cautioning the Goblin Riders about the Orc Lord's abilities. As they headed towards the battle, Rimuru, Benimaru, and Shion rode on Ranga to assess the situation. Rimuru and the group arrived just in time to see Soai in action against a high-level orc general. Xian defended Rimuru when the orc threatened, showcasing her strength. The lizardman, wounded and on the brink of death, was saved by Rimuru's healing potion. The orc general, defeated, was about to be interrogated by Soai when Xian delivered a final blow, claiming it as divine punishment. The lizardman then revealed a family crisis, with her brother Gable plotting against their father, the chief, and the lizardman facing a dire situation. Despite not having an official alliance, Rimuru agreed to help and sent Soai to rescue the chief, accompanied by the lizardman. With Soai off to rescue the chief, Rimuru focused on understanding the battlefield. The group discussed the possibility of helping Gable, the lizardman's brother, in the ongoing war. Benimaru and Hakuro suggested handling the battle themselves, but Rimuru insisted on observing and giving orders. Benimaru, passionate about leading, was initially hesitant but eventually agreed to execute the plan on the ground. Rimuru, uneasy about commanding an army, decided to watch from above and use thought communication to guide them. The Goblin Riders were eager for the fight, but Rimuru cautioned against reckless actions, emphasizing the importance of survival. Rimuru, equipped with wings, soared above the battlefield, taking advantage of the magical capabilities of his clothes. With a bird's-eye view, he used magic sense to gather information, realizing the strategic advantage it provided. Observing the struggle between the lizardmen and orcs, Rimuru noticed Gable's brave efforts against an orc general. Concerned for Gable's safety, Rimuru dispatched Ranga and Gada for a rescue mission. Despite the odds, he instructed his allies to assist the lizardmen and then act freely. The battle intensified, and Rimuru, relying on his past work experiences, hoped his team understood their limits while trusting in their abilities. Back to the lizardman chief. The chief bravely faced an orc general in a desperate battle, his armor shattered and his weapon broken. Despite the dire situation, the chief urged his guard to protect the vulnerable members of their community. He symbolized hope for the lizardmen, refusing to yield even as death loomed. The orc general, scornful and ruthless, aimed for the chief's life. However, just as the fatal blow was about to land, Soai intervened, honoring a promise made with the chief. In Soai's thoughts, Soai wore a small smile, proud that he served his new master Rimuru well. Once rivals with Benimaru, he now found fulfillment in serving Rimuru, leaving the past behind. Having experienced peace in his ogre community, Soai longed for a chance to use his skills. The attack by orcs brought turmoil, and Soai felt powerless. However, under Rimuru's guidance, he discovered a newfound purpose and the opportunity for revenge. Learning from past defeats, Soai dedicated himself to mastering his abilities, finding joy in faithfully carrying out Rimuru's orders and leaving behind the memories of his earlier mistakes. Back to the lizardman chief, the chief, facing his imminent demise, saw Soai, the envoy who had proposed an alliance, arriving unexpectedly. Confused and filled with doubt, the chief attempted to plead for help. Suddenly, a mysterious figure, later revealed to be Soai's daughter, appeared and healed the chief's severe wounds with a magical elixir. Soai assured the chief of his commitment to the alliance, urging him to wait patiently. And to the chief's surprise, Soai effortlessly halted the orc general's attack, exposing the orc's betrayal. Soai, an extraordinary individual with formidable powers, then dismantled the orc general with a new technique called sticky steel thread. The chief, now aware of Soai's true identity as an ogre mage, felt a mix of shock and relief, realizing the ogre mage's involvement secured the lizardman's safety. Soai, in a display of his capabilities, replicated himself to swiftly eliminate the remaining orc forces, leaving the lizardmen in awe. Back in the battlefield, after Gada and Ranga left, Benimaru pondered quietly before asking the hobgoblins if they could use shadow motion. They replied that they could only do it with their partners, like Gata. Benimaru, pleased with the answer, instructed them to shadow motion to Gada, who was aiding the lizardmen. The Goblin Riders enthusiastically followed the plan, charging into battle. Meanwhile, Benimaru and the three ogre mages prepared for their role in the conflict. Benimaru, filled with delight, recognized the unique bond he and his comrades shared under Rimuru's leadership. The ogre mages acknowledged the upcoming battle, expressing gratitude to Rimuru for the opportunity. As they dashed into the fight, Benimaru unleashed a devastating attack called Hellflare, showcasing his newfound magical prowess and instilling fear in the Orcish army. Just when Gabble thought he was done for, he turned around to find unexpected saviors, the ruler of the direwolf taming village, Gabda. Gabble, surprised and grateful, realized he had misunderstood Gabba before. Despite Gabba's puzzled expression, Gabble assumed the village ruler came to their aid. With this unexpected help, Gabble assessed the situation and noticed commotion in the distance, likely related to a previous rumble. Gabta, aware of Benimaru's signal that the ogres had arrived, urged Gable to gather allies and prepare for defense. Outside of Gabba and Gable's view, Ranga faced off against the orc general, who dismissed him initially. The orc, feeling threatened, ordered his soldiers to surround Ranga, but the wolf, named Ranga, unleashed his true form with horns and powerful abilities. Using dark lightning and control wind, Ranga created a devastating attack called Deathstorm, wiping out the orcs. Satisfied, Ranga observed his successful contribution to the battle, while Gabda and Gable worked together to regroup their forces. As Benimaru and his friends approached, victory seemed within reach, and Ranga felt a sense of accomplishment as they prepared for the ongoing battle. Jalmud, feeling frustrated and angry, watched his plans unravel as the crystal ball revealed the demise of his orc generals. He had been orchestrating a ceremony to create a new demon lord under his control but faced unexpected setbacks. Jalmud had been manipulating various races in the forest, naming powerful creatures to serve him. However, with Veldora's disappearance and the premature birth of an orc lord, Gelmud had to adjust his plans, focusing on the orc lord as his new demon lord candidate. The ogres resisted his influence, so Gelmud used the orc lord to conquer their homeland. Confident in his scheme, he overlooked renewing contracts with the Magic Borns, the moderate jesters. As the orc lord's conquest approached success, unforeseen events unfolded, threatening Gelmud's ambitions and his own existence. Panicking, he raced towards the marshlands, realizing the urgency to salvage his fading plans. From above, Rimuru witnessed a spectacular scene on the battlefield. Flashes of light and a roaring black dome created by Benimaru wreaked havoc among the orcs, leaving a sense of disbelief. Xian, with a glowing purple sword, effortlessly cut through hordes of enemies, her attacks leaving nothing but destruction. Ranga's transformation into a Tempest starwolf and the subsequent use of dark lightning and control wind added to the chaos, wiping out a significant portion of the orc army. Rimuru struggled to comprehend the overwhelming power displayed by their friends. Despite initial reservations about using such potent skills, Rimuru acknowledged that their friends operated without the inhibitions they carried from their previous world. As the battle unfolded, with Benimaru's strategic attacks and Hakuro's efficient eliminations, the tide turned in their favor. The once frantic ogres began to realize the shift in momentum. Rimuru couldn't help but marvel at the unfolding spectacle, even questioning the societal norms of their former world. After hours of intense fighting and significant orc casualties, the Orc Lord, the enemy's core, finally entered the fray. The Orc Lord, an incredibly ugly monster, stepped forward with two powerful orc generals by his side. Benimaru, Xian, Hakuro, Ranga, and even Suai prepared to face them. Rimuru, curious about the Orc Lord's strength, noticed the chaos in his aura. As they descended to join the battle, a sharp sound caught their attention. An oddly dressed man with a strong aura approached, revealing himself as one of the upper-level Magic Borns named Gelmud. He expressed anger at the disturbance and questioned who dared to challenge his plans. Rimuru suspected the newcomer, Gelmud, might be the villain due to his arrogant demeanor. Gelmud, adorned in magical attire, appeared upset as his plans unraveled. Gabil, one of the lizardmen, greeted him with reverence, but Gelmud berated the orcs for not evolving into demon lords as intended. Gelmud then targeted Gable, commanding him to sacrifice himself for the Orc Lord's strength. To everyone's shock, Gelmud attempted to kill Gable, but the lizardman shielded him from the attack. Gelmud, frustrated with the situation, unleashed a powerful magical assault, prompting Rimuru to intervene. Rimuru confronted Gelmud, absorbing his attacks effortlessly. Gelmud, bewildered, tried to counter, but Rimuru exposed his lack of understanding by using non-magical abilities. Rimuru confronted Gelmud, testing his newly acquired magical abilities. Gelmud, despite being an upper-level magic-born, proved weak in physical combat. Rimuru effortlessly countered Gelmud's attacks and discovered the effectiveness of his own magical bolts. As Rimuru gained the upper hand, he questioned Gelmud about any hidden skills or last resorts. Gelmud, fearing for his life, revealed the backing of a demon lord but was swiftly silenced by Rimuru's punch. Despite Gelmud's pleas for mercy and attempts to escape, Rimuru used sticky steel thread to immobilize him. As Gelmud sought help from the orc lord he previously disdained, Rimuru prepared to extract valuable skills from him, reflecting his disdain for leaders who treated their subordinates poorly. The orc lord's story, the young orc child remembered when he was taken in by the powerful magic-born who became his father. They shared a mission to turn the forest of Jura into a safe place for orcs to thrive, away from their harsh homeland. His father aimed to impress the demon lord by controlling the forest, promising aid to their allies. To achieve this, the young orc needed to gain strength by consuming stronger creatures in the forest. His father's wish for him to evolve into a demon lord puzzled him, but he remained obedient, staring at his father with confusion and uncertainty in his yellow eyes. Gelmud, unable to move, kept shooting magic bolts at Rimuru, but they couldn't pierce his defense. Rimuru, observing Geld's struggle, realized he was calling out for help from the orc lord, whom he had named Geld. Despite Geld's plea, Rimuru remained determined to defeat him. The orc lord finally intervened by beheading Gelmud, then devouring his body. Witnessing this, Rimuru understood that Geld, fueled by his loyalty to Gelmud, evolved into a powerful demon lord. Despite initial attempts to defeat Geld, his extraordinary regeneration ability made him almost invincible. Even a powerful attack from Benimaru and assistance from other allies seemed futile against Geld's resilience. Rimuru watched in disbelief as the demon lord Geld, in an act beyond comprehension, tore off his own arms and devoured them, along with an orc general who willingly sacrificed himself. Witnessing Geld's regeneration ability, Rimuru realized that defeating him would be an immense challenge, requiring an unprecedented level of power. As Geld unleashed his Chaos Eater skill, corroding everything in its path with a yellow aura, Rimuru felt a mixture of fear and exhilaration. Despite the overwhelming odds, there was a sense of joy in facing such a formidable adversary. Rimuru knew facing the demon lord would be tough. Despite the yellow aura surrounding them, they were resilient, relying on their ultra-speed regeneration to counter the damage. Each strike against Geld seemed futile, a reminder of their own weakness compared to their powerful allies. Reflecting on the skills inherited by their team, Rimuru realized their own limitations. Even though their allies were stronger in using shared skills, Rimuru questioned their own strength. However, a realization dawned upon them: they possessed innate abilities, skills they were born with. From Geld's view, the powerful demon lord Geld felt immense joy at facing 5 formidable monsters. Hungry and damaged, he saw them as a perfect meal to evolve further. However, his plans were disrupted by a mysterious creature with a mask. Initially dismissing it as weak, Geld's attacks proved ineffective against this unexpected foe. As the creature revealed its true face, a girl-like appearance with a sinister smile, Geld sensed an ominous aura. The creature unleashed a powerful attack, severing Geld's arm with a dark flame. Shocked and angered, Geld realized this was no mere meal but a formidable enemy. Despite his attempts to crush the foe, the creature's speed and strength posed a serious threat. As Geld unleashed his most potent attacks, the battle intensified, leaving him anxious and physically uncomfortable, facing an adversary he could not easily devour. Everything unfolded just as planned for Rimuru. With the Great Sage's support, Rimuru was now fighting at maximum efficiency, relying on the sage to handle the battle. Recognizing that overpowering the demon lord Geld directly was impossible, Rimuru employed a strategic approach. A multi-layer barrier was used to protect the sword, imbued with dark flame to enhance its attack force. The sage expertly managed all skills, predicting Geld's moves like a chess problem. However, an unexpected twist occurred when Geld revealed resistance to flame, disrupting the initial plan. Despite this setback, Rimuru remained surprisingly calm, expressing joy rather than concern. The Demon Lord laughed off the flames, introducing a challenging situation. Rimuru, confident and smiling, took control, revealing a deliberate strategy. Using Predator, an enhanced version of intrinsic skills, Rimuru engaged Geld in a consuming battle, exploiting the advantage of Predeceus instincts. Everything went just as Rimuru planned. With the help of the Great Sage, Rimuru was now fighting at his best, letting the sage handle the battle. Rimuru knew he couldn't directly beat the Demon Lord Geld with pure strength, so he came up with a smart plan. He put up a strong barrier to protect his sword and added dark flame to make it hit harder. The sage skillfully managed all the moves, figuring out Geld's moves like solving a chess puzzle. But things got tricky when Geld turned out to be resistant to fire, messing up the original plan. Surprisingly, Rimuru stayed calm and even seemed happy instead of worried. The Demon Lord just laughed off the flames, making things more challenging. But Rimuru, still confident and smiling, took charge and revealed a clever strategy. Using Predator, a boosted version of his own skills, Rimuru got into a tough battle with Geld, making the most of his natural instincts to come out on top. Time passed, and the consuming battle continued between Rimuru and Geld. As Rimuru focused on predation, he heard Geld's desperate thoughts echoing in his mind, expressing regret and determination to become a demon lord, despite committing crimes. Rimuru, confident in his victory, reassured Geld, but Geld persisted in his resolve. Despite Rimuru's assurance of consuming him, Geld expressed his fatigue and acceptance of his sins. In a surprising turn, Rimuru offered to absorb Geld's crimes and those of his comrades, easing Geld's burden. With gratitude, Geld's consciousness vanished and Rimuru absorbed his unique skill Ravenous, declaring victory. Rimuru acknowledged the weight of Geld's existence now carried within him, marking the end of the intense battle and Rimuru's triumph. In the quiet aftermath, Rimuru declared victory over the orc disaster Geld, bringing a mix of cheers from the goblins and lizardmen, and cries of despair from the orcs who realized the consequences of Gelmud's sinister plans. The unsettling part was the uncertainty surrounding Gelmud's claims of a demon lord patron supporting him, raising concerns about potential hidden adversaries. Despite the triumph, Rimuru felt a need for caution and the responsibility to address the remaining issues. The following day marked a crucial meeting that would shape history: the establishment of the Great Forest of Jura Alliance, indicating the beginning. Somewhere far, in a lavishly decorated room, a man named Clayman, wearing a mask, sat alone, smiling. He dismissed his servants elegantly and welcomed Laplace, who brought news of Gelmud's failed plan to birth a new demon lord. Despite the setback, Clayman remained calm, discussing the unexpected turn of events with Laplace. As they viewed crystal orbs containing visual records of the battle, they discovered a mysterious child controlling formidable magical beings. The revelation left Clayman surprised and concerned, realizing the force at play was beyond his expectations. Laplace suggested keeping things afloat for now, offering support if needed. As Laplace vanished, Clayman, alone in the room, pondered the unfolding situation. Back to the battlefield, the intense battle against Geld concluded with the protagonist reflecting on the narrow victory. Despite some regrets about not finishing the fight pre-evolution, the named Rimuru was thrilled about the significant rewards a new unique skill named Glutton. The skill combined old abilities like Predation and Stomach with new ones like Rot, Receive, and Provide. Rimuru was excited about the possibilities, especially the ability to gain and share skills with teammates like Benimaru and Ranga. Although there were some restrictions on providing abilities, the overall potential was promising. Rimuru also noticed that the skill analysis had merged into the Great Sage. Despite the relief of victory, Rimuru couldn't escape the inevitable cleanup, a task that always seemed more challenging than the battle itself. The day after the powerful demon lord Geld fell, representatives from different groups gathered in a big tent in the marshes. Among them were Benimaru, Shion, Hakuro, and Soai, along with Ranga in the shadows. Trainee represented the immobile treants, while the lizardman chief and his guard were there too, with Gabble in prison for treason. The goblin chiefs were amazed to see a dryad, and the surviving orc general and chiefs were there too, feeling guilty and hungry after the battle. The orcs had faced starvation, which led them to follow Geld, but now they were in dire straits. They had brought their entire population to the forest, fleeing famine. Rimuru, feeling overwhelmed by the formalities of the meeting, decided to speak up, expressing his lack of interest in punishing the orcs for their past actions. He assured them that he had taken on all their crimes, and he wanted to focus on finding solutions for their current situation. Despite initial shock, most agreed with Rimuru's stance, leading to a discussion about the orcs' right to live in the forest and Rimuru's dream of forming a great Forest of Jura alliance. After the big meeting, Rimuru realized that just letting the orcs go wouldn't solve their hunger problem. So he came up with the idea of forming an alliance. The lizardmen had water and seafood, the goblins had space, and Rimuru had a lot of stuff. In return, the orcs could help with their hard work. They needed to spread out the orc settlements and help them build homes. Rimuru hoped the orcs could eventually build their own town in the ogre's land. Everyone in the tent got excited about this plan, and they agreed to work together. Rimuru even became the leader, but he felt a bit overwhelmed. However, the treants joined the alliance and offered to help with the food issue. The day ended with the birth of the Great Forest of Jura alliance, marking Rimuru's entry into history. After forming the big alliance, Rimuru faced the daunting task of naming over 150,000 orcs. To make it easier, he decided to give them simple numerical names, like Mountain 1M or Valley 1F, based on their tribes. Although it took 10 days and nights to complete, it helped control the orc population and made things efficient. Meanwhile, Rimuru's ogre mages went to the treant settlement, guided by trainee, to secure a magical food supply called dried treants. These magical fruits could sustain the orcs and were transported quickly by the evolved starwolves led by Ranga. The plan alleviated the immediate food crisis, bringing relief to Rimuru and the newly formed alliance. After spending 10 days naming all the orcs, Rimuru felt a sense of accomplishment. The orcs evolved into high orcs and joined the alliance willingly. The elite orc corps, known as the Yellow Numbers, also pledged loyalty to Rimuru. The orc general, now named Geld, evolved into an orc king with enhanced abilities. The grand naming project concluded, and Rimuru bid farewell to the lizardmen chief, accidentally transforming him into a dragonaut. As the new leader, Rimuru reflected on the battles and looked forward to returning home to relax. The alliance's future seemed promising, with the orcs settling into their new homes and everyone working together. Gebel, who had rebelled against the chief Abil, faced his father for judgment after the battle. Expecting death, Gebel reflected on the betrayal and the unexpected help he received from Rimuru, a special slime. The chief, now powerful with a name, expelled Gebel from the lizardman's caverns. Surprisingly, he handed Gebel the vortex spear, a significant treasure. As Gebel left, he saluted his father, who conveyed a message of responsibility. Exiled and emotional, Gebel encountered his loyal knights who chose to follow him. Despite the exile, they expressed their unwavering loyalty. Gebel, touched by their devotion, led his followers confidently, looking forward to reuniting with Rimuru in a month. Rimuru, after 3 months of adventures, reflected on the chaotic time gone by. After helping the high orcs settle in the town, things picked up speed. With new labor, the town experienced a construction boom, and a trade system with the orc settlements flourished. Geld, a valuable ally, played a crucial role in the transit network, and Starwolves expedited deliveries. The Green Numbers joined, forming the Alliance's main defense force. Despite challenges like water shortages, the monsters worked together to build a better town. The monsters, united in believing in Rimuru's vision, saw the town as their place of peace, a true town of monsters.
That's it for today, guys, and thanks for watching the video. Stay tuned for next chapter. Until then, goodbye.